being recorded. You can always just keep your screen kind of blacked out. And also, I got to pull back the chat box. If you want to communicate without showing your face, you can use the chat box. Just throw the answers in the chat box. So today we're going to be doing what we call discovering music composers. So we did that little bell ringer as a good way just to kind of see faces, right? It allows us to kind of see who are these people that we're playing. So we play a lot of, I want to say, the Western music, because this is where the classical stuff kind of came from. And it's not to say that when these composers were writing their music during this time period that we did not have African Americans also doing some of the same things elsewhere. Okay, so just remember, even though you had all this music on the Western side of the world doing these creations and these compositions, that other areas, other countries, other parts of the world were doing the same thing. But today we will be looking at the Western music area. Okay, so I gotta share my screen. I'm gonna share my screen, and what we're gonna do is I want you to kind of do a shout out loud type of thing. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you what area you would like to visit, and you have to shout it out. If you don't shout it out, then we can't visit the place. Sounds cool? If you can hear me, say yes. Go ahead.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, here we go.
Yes.
So we are traveling. Where do we want to go, guys? Are we going to Spain, France, Germany, Portland? Which one? Any, miny, mo.
They don't have Africa.
Can y'all see it? Can y'all see my screen?
Poland.
Yes.
Someone says Poland. All right. That's the only one I heard. So guess what? We're going to Poland. There we go. Pause the music. And here we go. Guess who was from Poland? Frederick Chopin. Good choice. I didn't want to tell you that was like one of my favorites. I was like, all right, he chose it. Yay. So one of my first pieces that I played was called the Chopin Waltz. Okay, and it actually goes a little bit faster than that, but that was one of my first pieces that my father taught me. Okay, it says, somebody read. Let's see, I'm gonna show you right now. I want you to read this first part right here. So that is Frederick, if you wanted to know Frederick. All right, go ahead. Somebody read those first two sentences. Anybody want to volunteer? Or I could do a hot call.
I'm not paying my money. I want to.
All right, go ahead. Read away.
Frederick Chopin was one of the greatest pianists of his day. Chopin was born in a town just outside of Warsaw, Poland.
Good job. And that would be Chopin. I used to say Chopin too. You did a very good job. So notice it says his mother introduced him to the piano by the time he was 6. So just think of the times when, I guess, at what age you started playing the piano. So he started at age 6 and became a well-known, famous composer. Chopin played extremely well and was starting to compose. He gave his first concert at age 8. So he played in front of thousands of people at age 8. And he played one of his pieces that he composed. So there's a story that when Chopin left his native country, his friends gave him Polish soil, which he carried around with him for the rest of his life. That's probably not true, but Chopin did continue to passionately patriotic about Poland, even though he never went back there. Okay, let's see, anything else that might be fun about that could be about him. Chopin was never really had a healthy life. Okay, so he died of tuberculosis. Okay, And again, we will be going into doing some of his stuff in the fall. So we are gonna listen to some of the things by Chopin real quick. So I'm going to pull up a YouTube. And I'm gonna click this one right here. This is a nocturne. And here we go. You can see some of the people hands play. Now let me know if you can't hear it, okay? I'll try my best to get as loud as I can. Here we go. I'm just gonna play just a little bit of it. Can y'all hear that?
I can't hear it, and can we go to Ukraine next?
Oh man, I don't even know how I can get it a little bit louder. Oh man, I'm so sorry, guys. All right, but if you want, you can look this. I'll put this in the chat box. This is a very nice one. You can listen to. So I'll put the composers that we visited, some of their pieces in the chat box, and whenever you get a chance, if you want to, you can look those up. All right, so I'm gonna keep that open. I'll close this out so I don't freeze my screen. And somebody said Ukraine. So here we go. We are going to Ukraine. And I will close this one out. All right, Mr. Sergey. Oh boy, here we go. We are now in the Ukraine, where Russia has most of their composers. So it says Russian composer and pianist Sergey. I think his last name is pronounced Prokofiev. I don't know, but his is I know the first part is Sergey. Was born in 1891 in. Oh, somebody said his name.
Prokofiev.
There we go. Prokofiev was born in 1891, and somebody help me out. I think it's maybe San Sofia, a small village in Ukraine. Early on, it was clear that he had musical talent. His mother was a very good pianist, encouraged him and taught him to play the piano. So he was encouraged by his parents to play the piano. Sergey began composing at the age of 5. So notice, here's another person, another individual who decided to start playing at a very young age. When he got a little bit older, he and his mother moved to St. Petersburg so that he could study music there. So he also had some influence by his parents, just like Chopin, right? His mother decided to move somewhere where he can actually study music. She saw that he had talent. So after he graduated from school, he traveled around Europe to learn more about music. Now here it comes, World War I and the Russian Revolution made living and working in Russia very difficult. Why do you think it was kind of difficult during that time to live and work in Russia? Anybody? You can put it in the chat box or you can shout it out loud. Why do you think it'd be so hard? Go ahead.
Maybe because like all the war and all the damage caused in the war might have like had like kind of like a crippling effect on like the music community. So it was hard for anyone to like play any music anywhere because of the war that Russia was in.
Yes, and I love how you use that word crippling. So it was like a domino effect. So one thing you have to remember is whenever war occurs, it does not just affect one area of, I would say, of business or commerce, but it affects all. So your middle class, your upper class, and your lower class. Everybody got affected by this situation. Okay. So he left the country in 1918. Paris eventually became his home, But he also spent time in the United States and the Bavarian Alps. But the whole time he was away from Russia, he longed for his homeland. And in 1936, he made the unusual decision to move back in the Soviet Union, which is in Russia. Okay, so let us, again, I'm going to put the name of the person in the chat box because I'm not going to try to play it in the YouTube because it's probably going to do the same thing. And you can look him up and listen to some of his works, okay? Because if I try to play it in YouTube, for some reason, my laptop is not allowing it. It plays loud on my side, but it doesn't play loud for you guys. All right, so we just went to Poland. Uh-oh, go back. Who can remember who was from Poland? Let's see if y'all's paying attention. Who's from Poland? Who was from Poland? You could put it in the chat box and shout it out loud.
Chopin.
Yes, Mr. Chopin. Frederick Chopin is from Poland. And then we know Mr. Sergei, our dear friend from the Inspire Foundation. Can you help us with the last name? Was it Prokofiev? I think I'm saying it right. So Sergei Prokofiev, he is from the Ukraine. So now, where do we like to go to next? We have 3 more stops. Come on, where will we go? So we went Poland, we went Ukraine. Where else?
Scotland.
Somebody said Scotland. Let's see, all the way up here. All right, good job. Here we go. Let's see what's in Scotland. Who lives in Scotland? I don't know how they would kind of say their how you say that dialect. All right, so you have Theo Musgrave. Theo Musgrave. I'm always right. If you're on, and make sure you mute your mics if you're gonna play some music. We love the music. All right, Theo Musgrave was born in Scotland, but now lives in the United States. Her music includes everything from huge operas to very small choral pieces. Can someone tell me what is an opera? What is an opera? Who thinks they know?
A whole bunch of composers and this one lady singing really loud.
Say it one more time, Mr. Allen.
A whole bunch. This is one lady who sings really loud and some gibberish. I don't know what she says, but
Oh my gosh, some gibberish, and they're singing very loud. Can someone else add to that? Very good, very good.
I'm pretty sure it's like Italian or something. And
Okay.
like sometimes they're like theatrical where there's like different characters or something in them. There's like there's one like recognizable character where there's like a woman with the like blonde hair and Viking with the Viking hat on.
All right. So it is I love how y'all add the descriptions with the Viking and
Expressions.
say again.
Expressions.
Expressions
And straight.
and straight. Okay.
No, sweet.
Oh, and sweet. Okay. All right. Very good. So opera, first I'll go to Mr. Allen. Yes, it can sound like some gibberish. And the reason why it can sound like gibberish is because it is in a different language. So it's not in what we call the I would say the normal tongue. So the normal tongue would be English. And the reason why I'm saying normal tongue is don't forget the British did their beautiful thing when they decided to say, hey, we're going to colonize. And what they were pushing was religion along with language, English. So because it doesn't fall under the normal tongue, that's not the proper terminology for that, but it doesn't fall under English, we tend to say, oh man, this sounds like gibberish. So if I was to start speaking Spanish, you'd be like, oh, Mr. Hannah, what is he saying? It sounds like gibberish. Now to go on to Mr. Ianu, yes, there is some character in there. So operas tend to tell it what they call a story. It's a huge story that is being told through music. And yes, they do have sometimes a character, but the person doesn't always have to be female, or in our terms, how they use in cartoons, a Viking, right? You can actually have a male singer. And one of the most famous, I want to say, male singers was Pavarotti. And I don't know if y'all have watched the documentary on Aretha Franklin. Say it one more time.
I actually like have watched the documentary about Pavarotti.
Yes. So he's one of the most famous, just one of them. Now, he's not the, but he's one of the most famous male singers in that genre of music. And if you watch the documentary on Aretha Franklin, she actually sang an opera song. Okay, or I should say, yeah, a song, because it has words. And that was very unique because she is what we know as the Queen of Soul. So here's the Queen of Soul singing what we call an operatic genre of music. We will be done today at 1. I'm going to be stopping at 1:15. I'm going to put that in there. So we just have one. We're going to try to hit 2 more places, but we might just hit 1 more place. So let's go back to this. So we said, notice they have Just Like Erin Copeland. She studied in Paris with Nadia Bollinger. And later she studied with Copeland. Okay. Musgrave is highly regarded as an opera composer and has achieved much success with her works for the stage. So notice she didn't decide she want to do stuff for the radio, because notice the time, 1928. So we do have, this was around, the rolling 20s. So they were doing big band music and all that. This was when you had good old Mr. Duke Ellington also doing some compositions, but she wanted to do opera. Okay. So I put her name in there. Again, you can look her up and listen to some of her music. All right. Where do we go to next? Somebody shout it out, please.
Spain.
We heard Spain. Somebody said Spain, right? Yes, Spain?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to Spain, guys. So we just saw, let's do a recap. Who lives in Poland? Uh-oh.
Chopin. I don't know.
Chopin, Chopin. Who lives in Ukraine?
Sigrid Prop.
There we go, Mr. Sergei. Oh boy, that last name, I think it's Profi. I think that's how you say it. So you have Chopin, Sergei Profi, and then in Scotland we just saw her. That was the first female. So we saw 2 males or 2 gentlemen and lady, Miss Theo Musgrave. So now we're going to Spain. Here we go. Oh, so we have several individuals we can choose from. Which one would y'all like to read about? We could choose Mr. Isaac, Mr. Manuel, or Mr. Joaquin. Who would you like to read? 1, 2, or 3. All right, here we go. Let's go down. Ding, 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 ding. So, Joaquin Rodrigo. All right. When Spanish-born Joaquin Rodrigo was 3 years old, notice 3 years old, he contracted diphtheria. So the disease left him virtually blind. Sounds like Stevie Wonder, virtually blind. But his handicap did not prevent him from becoming one of the most well-known and popular figures in contemporary classical music. So Notice at the age of 3, he lost his sight due to, or partially lost his sight due to a disease, right? But did that stop him from playing? No, he was still able to play. So Rodrigo studied first in a college for blind children, and then he went to Valencia, Spain. In his late 20s, he moved to Paris. So he went from Spain, and then he was like, I want to go to Paris. Yeah, that's right around the corner. And he studied with the famous Paul Dukas. There he met other Spanish musicians, artists, and writers, including Manuel de Falla, who became a close friend and a longtime supporter. So now in 1933, Rodrigo married a Turkish pianist, Victoria Camille, who devoted her life to the career of her husband. In addition to performing and composing, Rodrigo led a very busy life as a professor of music. What is a professor of music? Who knows? A teacher. A teacher, right? So he was teaching not in high school, not in secondary school, which would still be high school, college, but he was in there you go, a university or a college, a music critique. He was a critic. What is a critic? Who thinks they know what a critic is? What y'all think a critic would be?
They tell you if you suck or don't suck.
Yeah, so a critic, they are those, they tend to, I would say, use subjective judging, okay? They look at your technique, your style, and all that good stuff. And he was the head of music broadcast for Spanish radio. Awesome. Governments, universities, and musical organizations from many different countries have honored him for his extraordinary contribution to Spanish music. So I'm going to copy his name. I'm going to put it in the chat box. Again, you can look him up and take a listen. Oh, I said 1:15 was going to start. I meant to say 2:15. Y'all know Mr. Hannah just got off of COVID. He all over the place nowadays. All right. Last place we're going to go. So we went to Poland, Ukraine, Scotland, and then we went to Spain. And notice this guy, he went from Spain to France. Remember, he went to study and do things in France, Paris. So now where do we go, guys? Where's our last stop?
Russia. But that doesn't mean
y'all want to go to Russia?
Russia.
Mother Russia. Okay. Huh? So here we go. We're going to the big Mother Russia. Okay, here we go. So we just studied this guy. Remember Sergei Profi? See, it's not too far from Russia. They sometimes say Ukraine is like Russia because they, if you look at the economy as far as how it's set up, they get a lot of influence. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh boy, we got a lot. So who would y'all like to read about from Russia? They went all out. Look at that. Okay, so who would y'all like to see? I'll scroll down slowly again. So you got 1, 2.
Dimitri, but the first
Dimitri?
Yeah,
I want to see Dimitri. All right, let's go to Dimitri. This time we're actually going to click on where it says modern period. All right. Uh-oh. I shouldn't have done that. I'm going to go back. Bing, bing. All right. We have Dimitri. Okay. Now, I'm going to attempt to say his last name because this is in Russia. It's not like the ABCs we use for English. So I think it's Kalabvisky. I don't know. I'm just going to start with Dimitri. So we're just going to call him Mr. Dimitri. Okay. He was born in St. Petersburg, which was then the capital of Russia. What does it mean to be the capital of something? If I say I'm the capital of Russia, what is that? Can anybody give me an example? I'm the capital of Russia. What does that mean? You could type it in. Or let me ask you this. What is the capital of Tennessee? What would be the capital of Tennessee?
Nashville.
There you go. So the capital, that's what the capital mean, right? It's the big city there. So he started playing the piano by ear. Oh, so this is the first guy we have now read about who started by ear when he was 6. But notice, most of these guys started at the same age. They were all just about under 8, right? 8 or under. None of them started at 10 from what we have read so far. In 1918, after the Russian Revolution, oh, so this is near the Russian Revolution. Remember we read about the other guy about the Russian Revolution. The family moved to Moscow, where Dimitri finally started studying music, including composition. So they have his last name, but we're going to say Mr. Dimitri. So Mr. Dimitri lived in a difficult time and place for a composer. In the Soviet Union, the government told artists, painters, writers, composers, you name it, exactly what they were expected to create. What does that mean? Can somebody explain that sentence to me? They said, I'm going to read it again. It says the Soviet Union, the government told them. Go ahead. Let's see. What you got? Uh-oh. I think we lost you. I think you lost you. You probably went in the prism of death, like in Ice Age. Does anybody know that sentence? Can somebody tell me what this sentence is trying to tell me? It says, in the Soviet Union, the government told artists, painters, writers, composers, you name it, exactly what they were to create. What does that mean?
What they wanted to create, they had to do.
What they wanted them to create, they have to do. It wasn't like the US. You did not have what we call that freedom of expression, those liberties that we have in our amendments, right? So now it says, and how it should look or sound. So if I'm telling you as the government how you should look and sound, basically I'm saying, and this was during that time, so things have changed. So don't be like, oh man, it's still like that. It's not quite still like that. Things have changed. But during this time, musicians, anybody in the creative arts could not basically be an artist. Because to be an artist means you are able to share your thoughts, your story. So during this time, these musicians, these painters, writers, composers were not allowed to do that. Mr. Dimitri managed to make the authorities happy as he continued to compose. So Mr. Dimitri, he wrote a lot of piano music, including pieces for children. So he did children's songs. He really enjoyed writing for children. Mr. Dimitri compositions include songs for children's chorus. So that means little choirs, and set of songs for solo voice, right? I mean, just one person is singing with an accompaniment based on some wonderful Russian translations of Mother Goose with rhymes. Of course, Mr. Dimitri also wrote plenty of adult pieces, including symphonies, concertos, and theater. Notice we found another person who decided to focus on stage music. All right, so I'm going to paste his name in the chat box. Again, you can look him up if you like and hear some of his work. All right, guys, that concludes our trip to the Western music of classical stuff. And I hope you enjoyed it. Any questions?
No questions.
No questions. All right. So I hope y'all enjoyed the game, and I hope y'all got a little bit about some of the composers that we play. And I will see you guys at your next music class. I hope y'all enjoyed this workshop. And I'm about to stop recording, and you are free to go. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.